And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Welcome back to the Bottom Line Wrestling Cast, the career of Stone Cold Steve Austin, where we break down Stone Cold Steve Austin's career every week here. And this week we got something special for you. It's a special edition episode. It's our second special edition episode. And this week we'll be covering the top moments of Steve Austin's 1996. Yeah, I'll give a top 5. JV will give a top 5. With that said, JV, how you doing?
Doing well, man. How about yourself?
Doing well. Yeah. Just getting ready to go back and kind of put in order the top matches or top moments that Austin had in '96. Yeah, it was his early stage, so we did have some ups and downs and trying to get familiar with his character and his development. But there are some standout things that happened, so that's what we're going to break down today. It is the top 5. And we'll also throw in each of our shittiest moment of the year of 1996 for Austin. So we're just going to get right into it. This is a special edition, so no bullshit here. Let's just get right into it. Let's not waste any more time. Number 5. Okay, I'll start my number 5. My number 5 moment or match from 1996, it comes from an episode of Raw. Okay, Raw 185 from November 18th, 1996. In a match against Mankind. And in that match, it was a brawl. Okay, this was the day after Survivor Series. Austin had just had a match with Bret Hart, and now a technical match with Bret Hart. And now he's going on to this brawl-style match. Maybe you have any...
No, I liked that match. I remember covering that. That was, it was very brutal. It was kind of like an early test of what's to come with the Attitude Era as far as the brutality of the match.
Exactly.
So a lot of outside the ring, more of a hardcore feel to it. So
yeah, I definitely thought it was one of his better matches of the year, especially for the matches that he had on Raw. So it really stood out. And looking back at all the different matches he had in 1996, this was one of the ones that I really enjoyed and thought it belonged there in the top 5. So that's my number 5 is Mankind match from Monday Night Raw. Raw 185, November 18th, 1996. Okay, we talked about it on episode 6, okay, the Royal Rumble episode. Okay, it's recent. We just did it. So if you want to hear more about our breakdown of that match, check out episode 6, the Rumble episode. Davey, what do you got for number 5?
For number 5, I got In Your House, Buried Alive, and that was on October 20th, 1996, and we covered this on episode 4, and, specifically the debut of Stone Cold's music. So,
oh, yeah.
I kind of had to mark that one in there as memorable. As iconic as Stone Cold is, his theme is just as iconic and, kind of helped make him who he was. Like, who knows how Stone Cold would have ended up if he had, like, a different theme? Like, what if he had...
just kept using the Ringmaster music.
Yeah, like, maybe he would have done well still regardless, but, like, come on. That might be the greatest theme of all time. It's definitely in the top 10, because I know, musical preferences
top 10?
all over the place.
Wow.
For me, it's my top 3.
Yeah, top 3. I can't think of...
It could be number 1. Yeah, exactly. I could be number 1. I'm just haven't put that much thought into it. Maybe a future episode.
Yeah.
But no, so
top music themes.
Yeah, it felt like it had to make the list.
Yeah,
just
that's a good one. I don't have
on that merit alone.
So I don't have that on my list, but definitely deserving is the music. Yeah, it's a big part of his character, and we play it every week now for our show.
Play it to start and play it to end, because put you in a good mood. Put you in in a confident mood.
Yeah, you feel like you got swagger and you're badass.
Yeah, you feel like you're Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like you're going to tell your boss to fuck himself, Fuck you.
All right, the number 4, my next one is number 4, is the Savio Vega match. Savio Vega match from In Your House. In Your House, Beware of Dog 2, Part 2. And that was the second match that they had after the power went out. And I thought that was an excellent match. It was a gritty match. He had a long-standing feud going on for a few months with Savio Vega in the early months of 1996. So this is taking place in May of 96 at the Beware of Dog 2. And I just thought it was an excellent match. It had good drama in the match. And it was when Austin finally shook off Ted DiBiase and became on his own at that point. And because the character of Stone Cold is being a loner, essentially. And he's now, at that point, he was straddled with a mouthpiece, Ted DiBiase. So as he was developing and becoming Stone Cold at that point, because he now was Stone Cold, he needed to break away from Ted DiBiase. So it was perfect that Ted DiBiase had decided not to re-sign with WWF and sign with WCW, because that gave Austin the opportunity to be on his own.
Yeah, blessing in disguise.
Yeah, so that makes it memorable, and it's also a great match, too. I think it's a really good match. The Caribbean Strap match from In Your House, Beware of Dog Part 2. We also covered that on our second episode, Episode 2, The Vega Saga. Still the coolest name of an episode yet. The Vega Saga.
No, I like those matches. That little feud he had with Savio Vega. Savio Vega did not make my list at all, but I really did like that feud that he had going on. The strap matches were awesome. At the time, I don't think we really saw many strap matches on Raw. Might have been the first one on Raw. I think we might address that in the episode, but
it wasn't many other than I think Justin Hawk Bradshaw was doing a bunch of strap matches for a while.
I remember him doing that. Yeah.
Right around that time or right before that time.
Yep, that's right. But good pick. Good pick. That was a great match. That's the one where Vince McMahon kind of praised it, right? Even though
that's
went out. Yeah.
Yep. It was when the lights went out. He was watching it. He was just sitting back and watching the match, not even concerned with the power outage that they had to deal with. He was just seeing Austin Vega put on this great match for just the audience that was there in the dark.
Yep.
And it said that this is one of the moments where where McMahon realized Austin is a star and we're gonna support him. We're gonna go back him up big time. So, classic there.
Mm-hmm. All right, for my number 4.
What do you got?
My number 4, I have Survivor Series 1996, and I actually think this was Austin's best match throughout the year of 1996, and definitely up to that point his best match in WWE. November 17th, 1996, versus Bret the Hitman Hart. And we covered that in episode 5, if I'm not mistaken. Just a technically sound match. A lot of back and forth. Both wrestlers really showing why they were alpha males, on that roster, and we're destined for big things. And as we see now in what we're currently covering, this turns out into bigger and better things. Believe it or not, as great as of a match as this was between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart. So, what did you think?
Yeah, it's definitely on my list.
Okay.
So obviously I have it higher than you, but I want to see now what's above that match because I love that match, and it is, like you said, a jumping point for the feud.
Yep.
Now Austin had set up that feud, and they had that going on while Bret Hart was still not officially back. He was still on his little hiatus.
Yep.
In September and October, when Austin started calling Hart out for a 2-month build-up to this potential match. And they finally had it, and it ended up being this great match. And we covered it in detail in episode 5, which was entitled DTA. And, yeah, I love that match. It's a classic, and like you said, it's just a forerunner for what's to come. As we go through the next few weeks on our show, we're going to get into how this feud continued on and built up throughout Royal Rumble into WrestleMania. And then even the months after, throughout the spring and into the summer, that feud with Austin and the Hart and Bret Hart, and then now the Hart Foundation eventually comes in, and that continues on. So yeah, this is just the beginning, and it's a great match from 1996. It's definitely his best match from 1996.
Nice. Glad you agree.
All right, so I'll go to my number 3, and I don't have to talk much about it because my number 3 is that match. It is Bret Hart versus Steve Austin from Survivor Series. So we don't need to talk about it anymore. That's my number 3.
I have another point to make there. Just
Okay.
just
Go ahead.
remember, if you listen back at the episode, I think we identified this as actually the last time that Stone Cold Steve Austin uses the $1 Million Dream. Up to
Yes.
up to where we're at now. Like, we haven't seen him use it since this Survivor Series '96 match with Bret Hart, because it eventually actually cost him the match. Because if you recall, he wouldn't let go of the $1 Million Dream, and then Bret Hart kind of rolled him up for the victory. Right?
Right, he bounced off the turnbuckle and then rolled them up and got the pinfall.
Yep.
And Austin hadn't used the $1 Million Dream since Ted DiBiase was his manager. And then he decided to use it in this situation during the Survivor Series match, maybe just out of desperation because Bret Hart kicked out of the Stone Cold Stunner.
Right.
Remember?
Yep.
And he just went to that move for one last hope. And Bret Hart was close enough to the turnbuckle, bounced off and rolled him up. And he got the 1, 2, 3 on him. So yeah, that is an interesting point that he uses that for the last time, and he hasn't used it since. At least to the point where we are right now in our
Right.
coverage of Stone Cold's career, which is right about around the time of WrestleMania 13. So we'll be watching that match. We'll be talking about that on next week's regular episode. So I don't recall that he uses it, but we'll see because
Yeah.
we'll take a look at it this week.
When we revisit it, we'll find out.
Yep.
But
All right, so that was my number 3.
so
Oh, you have something else with that?
no, just my number 3 was January 1996, the debut
Oh.
of the Ringmaster, Raw 142, and the exact date was actually January 9th, 1996, and we covered that in episode 1.
Yeah.
So the debut of Ringmaster, aka Steve Austin, is a big moment, and I think, my opinion, it had to be top 3, because that's his entrance into the WWF ring and the organization as a whole. So
Yeah, understandable. I agree. That is a moment. I remember the moment. So it belongs up there if it's memorable. And I unfortunately don't have it there.
Mhm.
And I'll talk about it in a little while.
yep,
But him going out there, debuting, definitely sets us up for everything that becomes Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously.
yep,
So that is important. And it happens there in January of 96. In our episode 1, From Stunning to the Ringmaster.
which is crazy still, just to see who he was as the Ringmaster when he showed up. I mean, emerald
Yeah.
green, emerald green tights. He had a mouthpiece, $1 Million Man, and Brother Love was, part of the introduction
Yeah.
as well. So just crazy. He
Yeah.
even looked different then. It's just he had the
Yeah,
mustache.
he
He had the mustache only, right? He didn't really have
Oh, he
the
had
goatee
no
growing
facial hair,
at all.
but he had a buzz cut.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Yep. It wasn't bicked. It wasn't a
Right.
clean bick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of
So
shocked
that-
that it make your list.
Yeah. Like I said, I'll talk about it, so that's a little hint of what I thought about it.
Nice.
I mean, I think it's memorable, but
Mhm.
I'll talk about it a little bit. So we're at my
We're at number 2,
number
man.
2. My number 2. All right, so my number 2 is the Pillman invasion, the Pillman home invasion. And Pillman's got a gun. And we cover that in our episode 5 also, with the same as the Survivor Series match with Bret Hart. It was earlier in that episode, the DTA episode, where we covered Austin breaking into Pillman's house. Now that is memorable, I think, as it gets from 1996.
Absolutely.
And it's just classic, and it's controversial, even for the time. And when you look at it through today's lens, it's even more controversial. because you know how it would, affect people's views today and what kind of uproar it would bring today.
Yeah, I mean,
But
arguably.
even at the time as a 13-year-old, and probably because I'm 13, I'm thinking, oh my god, a gun in wrestling? Like, this is serious. This is a big deal. Yeah, because that hadn't happened before. Okay, as crazy as some wrestling angles had been, there weren't guns involved. And to a 13-year-old, it's like, whoa, wow, a gun. So it stood in my mind. It's memorable, and it's been controversial, and it's basically was never talked about again after that for a long time. Like, at least, in kayfabe and WWF. They kind of avoided it.
Yeah, it's kind of been blacklisted
Yeah.
from
But,
WWE.
obviously it's still on the network, but
Yeah.
they don't reference it ever like they do with other things. So, definitely memorable moment. Also, some funny moments come when you have Austin kicking the shit out of Pillman's friends guarding the house, throw him in the pool, and busting the guy's head on the car door. And then finally getting it to the house, and Pillman just screaming. One thing I failed to mention in our episode that we covered it, Pillman's wife had the goods showing too that night.
Yeah, she
If you
did.
picked up on that, they
Yep.
were just hanging above his head. Yeah, I like that.
She was
I like that
definitely she took care of herself.
Yeah. So that's my number 2.
And actually, that's also my number 2. So Austin invades Pillman's home, like you said, Raw 183, November 4th, 1996. Covered in episode 5. Arguably the most controversial segment in WWE history.
Yeah, up there. It's
Just
gotta be up
crazy.
there.
Anytime you bring a gun into something that's more, at the time, was even now, it's more family-oriented show. It's aimed at families.
And it was definitely family oriented
Yeah.
at that time.
It's like when like Seventh Heaven brings a gun in. It's
Yeah.
kind of similar. You're just not used to seeing guns in.
The difference, though, at Seventh Heaven is they would be telling some moral tale,
Yeah. That's true.
but WWF is not telling any story other than Brian Pillman's nuts and he has a gun. He's gonna shoot Steve Austin.
So when yeah, exactly.
Fucking Seventh Heaven. How do we bring that up?
I don't know why I went there. I don't know. It's the first thing that I don't know if I saw an episode years ago and there was a gun in it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know where that came from.
One of those huge drama episodes.
Yeah, that's all I can think.
Oh my
Like, what's
God.
very drama? I'm like, Seventh Heaven. Shit was full of drama. People were always sad and they were dad talks and shit. Don't know how that relates to WWE, but I put it in there.
All right, so obviously it's looking like we got the same number 1. So we'll just get to that now.
I'll kick it off with number 1.
All right,
And
go ahead.
I got Stone Cold
I'll
Steve
just
Austin.
confirm.
Yeah, I got Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Mark Mero.
Get the fuck out of here.
Nah, number
Which one? From International Incident or
Yeah.
from Raw? Which one? Obviously.
the one with Sable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But number 1, obviously, King of the Ring, 1996, the coronation. Not the whole episode, just the coronation part, and that's June 23rd, 1996, and we covered that in episode 2. And just simply, I can sum it up in 2 words.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. I'm sorry. I can sum up the King of the Ring 96 coronation in 2 words. It begins.
Yeah, hell yeah. You get some classic quotes from Austin in that. And obviously, that's my number 1 too. So there we are, number 1. This Austin 316 comes alive there with the quote, Jake Roberts. It's a classic moment. Obviously, it's one of the most memorable, and it's often played over and over again.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And they even like to change the I don't know, not the word for it, but the legend of that night is that kicked off Austin 316, and all the fans went crazy. And I've said it numerous times on previous episodes that wasn't the case.
Nope.
And that it took a little while for things to pick up for Austin. But that's
about
where
5
it
months.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 5 months, 5 to 6 months. Wouldn't be really until January of the following year, 1997. that he started to pick up a lot of fanfare.
Yeah, I would say like Survivor Series '96 was like the point where if you didn't notice them before then, you knew them then, like for sure.
Right. Yep.
I think
definitely.
everyone was pretty much on board at that point when you had that match with Bret Hart. I mean, just back to the way it got hyped up and all that too. So
Yep. All right, so that probably doesn't come to a surprise of any of you that would be the number one moment, is the coronation, the King of the Ring. Now, the King of the Ring matches, not really that good. Mark Merrow match, that was pretty good. But then to win it with a match with Jake Roberts, the match kind of blew.
he needed his liquid courage for that one.
Yeah. But he gave us that coronation speech kind of off the cuff.
Yep.
And created history that night. So
and in
there's
turn,
our top five.
And in turn, Michael Hayes will forever be known too, since he gave the.
It's always associated.
Yep.
With that speech as Doc Hendricks.
Doc Hendricks, yeah. Michael Hayes. Jeez, where's my head at? I remember him as Michael P.S. Hayes though back in WCW Nintendo video game.
Wow.
That's the first I'd heard of him. Him and Eddie Gilbert. I think his name was Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert.
Hot Stuff, yeah.
Those two guys had like the two best movesets. Them two and Mike Rotunda. Not to get off topic.
Mike Rotunda had a good moveset?
Yeah, he was the only one in the game that did a flying knee. And
flying knee.
You couldn't block it. So basically you'd start the match, and that's how I'd beat the game. You just run against the rope, and you just keep bouncing off the rope and throwing your high knee. And eventually you hit it, and they can't block it. And you just, took you a while to win some of the later matches, but that recipe always worked.
I always hated playing video games with my friends that would just do the same moves over and over again. Like, stop doing that. Do something different.
No.
Kicking my ass because you're doing the same thing over and over again.
Trying to win. You ain't the computer, bro.
Yeah. All right, so that's our top five. But before we go, we do have to bring up one stinker or one shitty moment for Austin in 1996.
What do you got?
I'll go first. All right. It was on your list. I mean, not exactly the same, but it's related to your debut of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the shitty moment, or it's not even really a moment, but something to do with Austin from 1996 is that he enters the WWF as the Ringmaster. And luckily for Austin, he is as great as he is, so he was able to shake off that shitty gimmick. But to be saddled with that from the start, that sucked. Okay, because there was anticipation for Steve Austin coming into the WWF. And then when he finally makes his debut, it's, he's the Ringmaster? I mean, I was still excited to have him there, but it's like, that doesn't sound right, Ringmaster. So, luckily, like I said, he shook that off, and his talent shined through, personality came through, and he was able to break away from that and become Stone Cold. So, that's just the shittiest moment, is when he comes out as the Ringmaster. But, like you had said in your top five, it is a memorable moment, of course, but it's just the name.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
The name is a blemish.
Yeah.
The name is a blemish on his record. He was the Ringmaster. My personal opinion. So that's my stinker. What's yours?
I'm not gonna take it personally, so I won't. But I would say mine is gonna be Austin versus Jake Roberts, Raw 178.
Oh,
September 30th, 1996. So it was just a bad match.
Oh yeah, that was
like he came out looking like junk, like he just wasn't in shape. I don't know. It was just, I don't know. I think at that point they were trying to kind of go back to that just kind of like a prior feud that Stone Cold had, like give Jake the Snake a chance to redeem himself, a rematch.
Yep.
But it just kind of sucked, and I think Lawler kind of like the highlight of that match is Lawler, I think, like tempting Jake the Snake with the bottle of Jim Beam, is it? Remember, he's
Yeah,
like
Jim-
constantly
Jim
showing
Beam.
the Jim Beam or
Yeah,
whatever.
like the little tiny ass bottle of Jim Beam,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, like little, like the next size up from a nip.
Yeah, and Jake Roberts probably like that won't do shit to me.
Where's the handle?
Yeah, give me the damn handle. You playing around with that shit.
Yeah, but I guess that's my low. I was gonna pick the first Jake the Snake match.
Yeah, the King of the Ring one.
Yeah, I almost went there.
Yeah.
I should have.
Either one.
Yeah.
Either one sucks. So if you want to see a shitty match, go back, or you want to hear about a shitty match in more detail, go to episode 4, Stone Cold, and we talk about that.
Is it episode 4? Yeah.
Yep, Raw 178, September 30th. Yep, so that's our top 5. Those are our stinkers, for lack of a better term, I guess. I guess there's no better word for it. This is our special edition episode. Thank you guys for listening to our first set of episodes and traveling through this journey of Austin's career in 1996. We have just jump-started in 1997. We've done Royal Rumble, In Your House, and this coming week, it'll be WrestleMania 13. Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, and probably one of the greatest matches in all of wrestling history. And we're going to break that down. And we're also going to do another special edition next week, a watch-along of that very match. So stay tuned for that. Check us out on Wednesday for WrestleMania 13, and then followed up by our watch-along on Friday. And thanks, guys. JV, anything to say? Sign off?
I have no final words.
All right. We're out of here. Thanks for listening. See you soon.